Last weekend at my daughter's tournament, I watched three young athletes struggle. One of them threw up mid-match, another cramped, and the third faded hard in the final minute. Now, as a nephrologist and a sports parent, I knew exactly why. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Dr. Hashmi, board-certified nephrologist and obesity medicine specialist. And today, I'm exposing the pre-match nutrition mistake that's sabotaging 90% of young grapplers. Plus, I'm going to give you the exact science-based formula that actually works. Now stick around because I'm going to give you the one snack combination that sounds completely wrong, but works like magic for wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll give you the exact gram targets with simple pound conversions so you never have to guess again. Now, before we dive in, quick question for everyone. Have you ever fed your kid what you thought was the perfect pre-match meal only to watch them struggle on the mat? And if it is, drop it in the comments below because you're definitely not alone. Now, here's what shocked me when I started to analyze this as both a doctor and a sports parent. Wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are what we call glycolytic sports. That means they burn through your muscle stored carbohydrate called glycogen. And this is kind of like a race car burns fuel. Think explosive takedowns, scrambles, and those all-out sprints to escape bad positions. But here's where most parents get it wrong. They think my kid needs protein for strength, or we'll give him something healthy like a quinoa bowl with vegetables. As a physician who specializes in metabolic disorders, I can tell you this approach backfires for one simple reason: timing and digestive physiology. When your child eats protein, fat, or high fiber foods close to competition, their digestive system has to work overtime. Blood flow gets diverted to the stomach instead of the muscles. Plus, these foods can take 3 to 4 hours to fully clear the stomach. Now, I've learned this the hard way with my own kids. Being the medical dad, I gave them what I thought was perfect, oftentimes things that were rich in protein, healthy fats, and of course, complex carbohydrates. Sounds very balanced. Problem is that they started to feel nauseated during warm-ups and wrestled, sometimes like they were wearing a backpack full of rocks. And the mistakes 90% of the sports parents make is they're applying these dinner nutrition rules to pre-competition fueling. It's like using a hammer when you need a screwdriver. It's the wrong tool for the job. All right, so let's dive into this. Now, let me give you the formula that's based on actual exercise physiology research, not Instagram wellness advice. You want to use the 1 in 4 in 1 in 4 rule. So in other words, the rule is very simple. It basically states 1 to 4 grams of carbs per kilogram in the 1 to 4 hours before the first whistle. So if you want to think of pounds and not kilograms, that's about 0.45 grams to 1.8 grams per pound. Now, this is backed by major sports nutrition position statements. So this 1 to 4 in 1 to 4 rule comes from major position statements on athletic fueling, the American College of Sports Medicine, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and the International Society of Sports Nutrition all use this framework. Now, I know, who thinks in kilograms? So once again, the conversion to pounds that you can actually use is 0.45 to 1.8 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. And of course, that range really depends on the timing. So let me give you some clear real world examples. If you have about 3 to 4 hours before a competition, so you got a bigger window, and let's say you're 80-pound wrestler. I'm saying this because my daughter is, she's 70 pounds. We're trying to put some weight on her. She's 12 years old, but sometimes she gets up to 72, but let's assume she's 80 pounds. So your 80-pound wrestler needs about 110 to 145 grams of carbs. Now that's substantial fuel. So you can include more complex carbohydrate combinations because you have a much bigger window, 3 to 4 hours. So If you have a tighter window, let's say you got about 1 to 2 hours before going in, now you want to go on the lower end of the spectrum. So in other words, the same 80-pound kid is about to go into a wrestling match. It's about 2 hours before. You're going to aim for the lower end. So that's about 36 to 72 grams of carbs. And here we're going to go for lighter and faster digesting carbohydrates. Now, from a doctor's perspective, here's why this works. We're optimizing stomach emptying or gastric emptying while maximizing muscle glycogen availability. That's just fancy term to say what we want to do is get stuff out of your stomach and make it so your muscles are able to hold on to that sugar and use it in game time. So as you get closer to go time, low fat, low fiber, familiar carbs are going to empty faster. They're going to feel better. They're going to fuel the athlete better, which can lead to optimal performance. Now, here's where everything starts to get interesting and what you really want to know. The closer you get to competition, the more important it is to avoid anything that slows stomach emptying. That means no high-fat foods, no nuts, no cheeses, no avocados. You want to avoid high-fiber foods, whole grain anything, raw vegetables, and you want to minimize the protein. Remember, save the protein for after the competition, not before. Now, I get it. As parents, we want to give our kids real food and balanced nutrition, but competition day isn't the time for nutritional perfection. It is the time for performance optimization. Okay, so I started this video talking about the snack combination. I promised, the one that sounds completely wrong, but works like magic. So let's give you some examples. The first one is the one that's really interesting. So this is what I call the too simple combo. You got 3 hours out, so you have plenty of time to go ahead and carb up. So things like white bagel, which will give you 45 to 50 grams of carbs, a tablespoon of honey, 17 grams of carbs, a medium banana, 27 to 30 grams of carbs, some diluted sports drink, 8 to 12 ounces. That'll give you about 7 to 14 grams of carbs. Add it all up, you got 96 to 111 grams of carbs. Now, this is perfect for an 80-pound athlete when you have about 3 hours. But what if you only got an hour or 90 minutes before the match? Drop the bagel, keep the banana, and maybe even add something like small pretzels. You're going to get about 36 to 72 grams of carbs, simple carbs. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dr. Hashmi, that's just sugar. And you're almost right. But as a metabolic specialist, I can tell you that simple carbohydrates are exactly what we want in this window. They empty from the stomach fast, they hit the bloodstream quickly, and they top off muscle glycogen stores right when they're needed. Another option, the tried and true, if you have about 3 to 4 hours out and you're aiming for, let's say, about the 110, 145 grams, you can do a turkey sandwich, but light turkey on white bread. You're getting about 45 grams of carb, 15 grams of protein. You could do applesauce, 20 grams of carbs, a small bag of pretzels, 25 grams of carbs. Once again, that diluted sports drink, 15 grams of carbs. So total, you got 105 grams of carbs. And if you need more, you can add another applesauce and you can hit that 125. And if you got a really picky eater, here's a very simple one. You're 1 to 2 hours out, 60 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever it is, you're right about to start. Bananas are awesome. You got 27 grams of carbs. You can give them some pretzel. You got 20 to 25 grams of carbs. So what's the total? About 47 to 52 grams of carbs. That's perfect for the tighter window. Now, the question I got for everyone watching is, which one of these sounds most doable for your family situation? Let me know. And if you want different suggestions, I can also throw out there. Now, let me address some of the most common concerns I hear from parents. But Dr. Hashmi, white bread and sugar, that doesn't sound healthy. So here's the thing. We are not talking about daily nutrition. We're talking about sports performance fuel. It's like the difference between everyday driving, and NASCAR fuel. Different purposes, different requirements. Then I always hear my kid is a picky eater and won't try new foods. Trust me, I have two daughters. So you want to stick with foods they already like. For example, a peanut butter sandwich on white bread works if that's what they'll eat. Remember, the worst pre-match fuel is the healthy food sitting uneaten in their bag. And what about kids who need to make weight? Well, usually the weigh-ins are done earlier, but as a physician, I can tell you, my goal is to make sure that the child, in this case my own daughters, are having their optimal performance, and we're not focusing so much on just making a number on the scale. We're going to talk all sorts of detail about cutting and so forth. That's coming up in a future video. But for now, remember, proper fueling, it prevents the crashes that lead to poor technique and injuries. And that's my goal. Optimal performance, prevent injuries. Now, let's talk about some common mistakes that really cause you to affect the performance. So in my medical practice, I see long-term effects of poor nutrition habits every single day. But on tournament days, I get to see the immediate consequences, and here are the biggest mistakes. Mistake number one, the balanced meal trap. Giving kids foods that are rich in fats, rich in protein, so eggs, whole grain toast, fruit salad 90 minutes before competing. Remember, the fiber, the fat, the protein is going to slow down gastric empty. Now, this looks perfect on paper, but it is a recipe for stomach distress during competition. Mistake number two, trying new foods on competition day. Now, we've all done it. We see some superfood recommendation on Instagram, YouTube, online, wherever it is, and we think this weekend's tournament is perfect to try it. Don't. Tournament day is not experiment day. Mistake number three is the starvation strategy. Some parents think an empty stomach is better than a full one. From a metabolic standpoint, this is backwards. Remember, an empty stomach also means empty muscle glycogen stores. That means your kid will be strong for the first 30 seconds, but then they're going to burn out. They're going to hit a wall. Mistake number four, and I can't stress this enough, energy drinks and pre-workouts. Look, as a doctor, I need to be crystal clear. Energy drinks are not for kids or teens. There's no proven safe caffeine level, and there are potential cardiovascular and neurological effects. The American Academy of Pediatrics explicitly recommends against energy drinks for children and adolescents. Stick to water and diluted sports drinks. Now, if you realize you've made some of these mistakes right before a match, it's okay. Give them something simple and fast-acting. Banana, a few crackers, small sips of diluted sports drink. Don't panic. One suboptimal meal won't ruin everything. So let's talk about exactly what to do with all of this information that I've given you today. Here is your pre-match nutrition checklist. 1. Calculate your child's carbohydrate needs using the formula we talked about, 0.45 to 1.8 grams per pound. If you're very close to the match, about 60 minutes out, go on the lower side of that amount. If you have 3-4 hours, go on the higher side of that amount. That's how you determine what part of the range you want to fall in. Number 2, plan backwards from the competition time so you know when you need to feed them. Number 3, test these combinations during practice and not competition. Number 4, keep it simple. Familiar foods win over perfect foods. And number 5, stay flexible. Tournament schedule changes, so you want to make sure you always have backup options. Now, if this helped you, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, subscribe for more evidence-based sports nutrition knowledge that's going to be coming your way. Please share this with other folks for wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, other parents. Everyone needs to hear evidence-based information. And look, at the end of the day, tournament day is stressful enough without second-guessing your kid's nutrition. Use this formula, trust the science, and watch your young athlete perform at their best. Next week, I'm going to talk about the 3 hydration mistakes that I see at every tournament that are literally damaging your young athletes' kidneys. One of them is going to shock you because it's what most sports medicine programs recommend. So hit that notification bell so you don't miss it, and make sure that you are not just helping your kids, but leading by example by taking care of your own health. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see everyone next week.